What even is an indie game anymore? So, an indie game originally meant a game developed by a group of people without ties nor access to a publisher. This was an important distinction back before the age of Xbox Arcade, before the advent of the indie-ocalypse that shook the foundations of the gaming industry by proving that small boutique experiences could stand on the same stage as the biggest names in video games, while being held up as important historical innovations in the art form. When being independent was rare, it was rare precisely because of the expense of making a video game. Publishers held the key to the kingdom by funding both the development of games themselves and marketing games on major media outlets. This created industry terms like first party, a game that was developed by a studio owned by a publisher and stayed exclusively on that publisher's platform. Think Ubisoft, the parent company, versus Ubisoft Montreal, the game developer studio, or Sony, the parent company, and Crystal Dynamics, the game developer. Third party, games developed without the studio being a legal entity tied to the publisher, often hiring a publisher to market a game while selling it on multiple platforms. There was even the far more confusing term second party, meaning a development studio not owned by a publisher but with a close working relationship and often selling their games as exclusive to one platform holder. Funding from publishers was, at one point, more freely given in order to get developers to help expand a console's game library and encourage platform sales. Terms like AAA described anything expensive with an interesting story, cutting-edge graphics, and expanded gameplay. AA or B games were terms used for games that operated on more of a budget but were still being funded. Game development was a new business for rich people with upper middle class clients to invest in, not a cheap cash cow. Budget determined the size of your game almost exclusively, and publishers needed to seek games proactively. Independent game developers became known as such because they forewent all of that. They were small, making Flash games on web browsers and uploading them to services like Newgrounds. Web 1.0 allowed indie devs to create small games and release them on platforms with little oversight. Yet, as open source game development tools became more accessible, as Valve's Steam store and console game platforms started to fill their libraries with more professional looking, independent games, the new high quality on a budget game was born. And now that is what indie has come to mean. High quality on a budget. People with skills and experience but varying degrees of resources to make the things they want to make. Meaning that middle-sized game development studios like Supergiant and Spiders still share the name indie with student projects posted to itch.io. This is why once small indie game publishers like Devolver Digital are still called indies. This is despite having grown to posting a $52 million profit in 2021 as a $19 million profit decrease from 2020 due to, get this, the cost associated with going publicly funded in order to raise millions of dollars more to fund more indie games development. Though I seriously doubt that Devolver thinks of the games they fund as indie anymore, the main problem of semantics here is that we are used to discussing the size and quality of games based on a linear grading scale. Literally taken from the beef industry, marketers started calling games AAA to indicate superior quality, but the indie revolution changed that perception without changing the hierarchy. It feels wrong to call some of the best games, which happen to be smaller than AAA budgets, something like A grade or B games, simply because they were successful enough to graduate above the term indie. so we just kept saying indie. At current, I don't know what else we can call the middle budget game while still respecting the quality of the experience, but with a bit of ingenuity, I bet we can find the language to describe these games without the need for beef-based hierarchies. Stay true.